Hey Deep Chatters, I'm Leah Morris here with my co-host Jennifer Butler, and this is Deep Chats Podcast, where we have raw discussions about real life. Each week you can expect unfiltered, no BS conversations from the heart about topics that actually might matter to you. We're just a couple of relationship coaches who want to cut through the small talk and dive deeper. So thanks for joining us on this journey, and be sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. How are you feeling?
Depends on the minute.
Yeah.
My energy plummets sometimes. But I mean, overall good. I'm in like deep trust.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And obviously, like everything in life, it's been a huge lesson learned and so many ahas and all that. I'm just like, okay, I think I've learned enough lessons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, but it's been, I've made a commitment not to take action for a week. So like every time, because I'm constantly getting intuitive hits and just acting on them. So as I said, I realized that's actually a trauma response. So I have made a commitment to not act for a week. And so every time I have some like an intuitive hit, it gets written in my phone. And then it's there. I don't have to worry about it. And really just feeling into like which part. I think what's been happening is my connection to my intuition has been so wrapped up in trauma that it's actually not been deciphered.
That's super interesting. Like,
yeah.
Because I know, we've talked about this before, like a lot of times when we're like, trust your intuition, but then the following question that comes up is like, well, how can you tell the difference between fear and instinct, like fear and intuition? Because sometimes intuition, it does tell you to be afraid of something. Sometimes intuition does say like, this isn't right for you. And sometimes like, I never even thought of just there being, and it makes so much sense that you say it, but like having your intuition wrapped up in trauma and like having their, not being wrapped up, even just like seeing it through a lens of trauma and like needing to act, like you were saying, like it's just really interesting. Because I think sometimes we tend to think they're completely separate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the key is the feedback portion, right? It's like, okay, you have an intuitive hit. And then it's like a relationship. This is why I was like, holy crap. Like I literally have shifted my narcissistic connection from a human to my business or even to life, because with a narcissist, the feedback is always bad. Like it's always confusing, right? The feedback is always, no, you need to do more, basically, right? You're not doing it right. You need to do more, figure it out, make it good. Oh shit, something's wrong, right? Eggshells, right? Like, so you look like when you're walking on eggshells all the time, you're not actually waiting for feedback. You're like almost in a constant fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'm like, and the fact that I'm willing to take action is such a beautiful thing, right? It's courageous and it's all those things. And it's not something that I want to lose, but I think it's been coming as a fight or flight as opposed to like a deep intuitive movement.
Yeah, totally. I can totally relate to that. And think it's hard right now too, because this, like, you know, with the pandemic and stuff, like, we're sort of, the pause is like so deafening. Like, I mean, things are not all paused, but you know, that like willingness to just have all these downloads, have all these, you know, doubts, have all these truths come up, but like to not move with every single gust of wind that comes. That's like a true test of resilience and like strength, and even just like knowing when to move. I was actually just talking about this to Yana Robinson, my coach, and she was like, because I was referring to my mom, and I'm in this, like, I haven't talked to her for like 2 months. And as the holidays are approaching, I'm like, okay, I gotta gear up for, like, I'm gonna be around her. Like, I'm gonna probably have these conversations with her. And so, like, at what point do I start opening back up the door to my like house of well-being, right? At what point do I like extend the olive branch and do all these things? And I'm like waiting for, I'm like in this waiting phase right now where I'm like not doing anything. Like, I have all these like moments of, you should reach out now, you're ready now. And then I have these moments of, this feels so good to have space, you're not ready. And they're like constantly changing. And it doesn't, I don't think that it means that any of them aren't true. Like, but it's just such a practice to just sit and like continue to watch them sway and change. And like she was saying too, like at some point I might decide to reach out. Mm-hmm. And then at some point I might be like, maybe even the same day, like, never mind, I'm not ready for this. Like, that could change too. And there's no, anyway, I feel like my practice right now, and maybe this resonates with you, is to just not react to every gust and just know that like when the time comes, I'll know. And also like that could look like me giving myself permission to not go to Christmas.
Right.
And not go to other holidays that are coming up. And like when I think of that, I'm like, oh, that feels so relieving. Like, yeah. It feels so okay. And also, I don't have to really go to Christmas for the next ever. Right. But like, if I do, I can choose that if it feels supportive to me, but like permission to not.
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't make me and like abandoning anyone. In fact, like, oh, that's like so supportive.
Yeah. I mean, it's reminding me of what Glennon Doyle, I love her book, Untamed. But one of the pieces that always sticks out to me is when she talks about her son, and she tells him, I would rather you disappoint me than disappoint yourself. Don't ever, right? Don't ever disappoint yourself over disappointing others. And she was like, and then she goes on further to say, if he's disappointing me, I know he's living true to his self. If he's not disappointing me, then he's living true to me. And she's like, and I don't want him living true to me. I want him living true to himself. And she's like, and if you have a healthy adult, she's like, I'll get through my disappointment. That's my responsibility, not his. And I'm like, I'm always saying, like, I'm like, that is so powerful. Permission to choose you.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah. And then like, I mean, this sort of thing is like, this sort of way of thinking can be reflected literally in every area. And like your business, like imagine if your business was Glennon Doyle and was like, Jen, like, you're exhausted. permission to just like do whatever you need
Stop.
to do. I can be disappointed. I can deal with that. Like, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
You don't owe your business anything, especially if it's like abandoning yourself in that. Not that I'm saying that you've done that, but like,
well, in some high level, probably I have, because I definitely haven't been choosing against myself consciously, but without stopping and waiting for feedback, really that's just a bully, right? Really, I'm bulldozing, right? I'm bulldozing my way through without stopping and checking, like, and waiting, because I think the disconnect has been like, I don't expect the feedback, right? So just constantly keep moving and doing and showing up and working hard, and like, I'll earn it, right? Like, I will earn it. And it's like, wait, that's not right.
mm-hmm.
Right. And like, so it's almost like sitting in, I'm going to trust, even when I get afraid and anxious, like, oh my God, the answer's not coming. That means I have to wait longer. That means I have to wait deeper and continue to remind myself, I expect reciprocation. I expect you to show up for me. I expect help. I expect guidance. I expect feedback. I expect you to encourage me to grow, right? Like, my relationship with life itself, like, I expect life to show up for me.
Totally. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be hard. Actually,
No,
it shouldn't be.
it shouldn't be. Right? It
Like,
shouldn't be.
it's
Work, right? But not hard.
sure, like effort, but
Yeah.
not like suffering. I mean, I know
Right.
like the Buddha says like life is suffering, but
Yeah.
I think too, you know, it can be like, for instance, so at the beginning of the pandemic, I was feeling this like expansion happening. Like I had just broken up with my boyfriend at the time, was like, I just felt a lot was like I was on my edge of like growth. There was growth coming. And so I set up a meeting with Yana, and I told her I had a couple ideas, because like you, I constantly have ideas. Like I have so many ideas, and then some of them are like really, really great, like really, really, really great. And some of them are not that great. But anyway, I had a couple really great ones, I felt, that didn't look that looked similar to like what other coaches were doing with their businesses. And I was like, that sounds great. Like I want to take that next step. I'm ready to like take my business bigger. I want to scale. And so, but there was something that felt like unclear. And so I scheduled a session with her, and she was like, well, yeah, you could do all that. Like, or you could do something completely different that no one's seen before, that might take you a little longer to figure out and feel into. But like, also, more does not necessarily, like, have bigger doesn't necessarily mean more successful. And especially if it's feeling not clear enough. Like, I feel like when something makes sense, even in the lack of information that you might have at your fingertips, there's still a clarity around like, this is the path. There's clarity here. But like, it's when we force the movement on the path where we're like, okay, that's a path, but it's an unclear path, but I'm just going to bushwhack my way through.
Right.
You know, and it's like, that wasn't even my path.
Right.
My path is going to be clear. and I can sit with it for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and it's gonna stay feeling clear. But it's those, yeah, because what I was thinking of was a subscription, not necessarily a subscription, but service, but like a group of like a collective of coaches. And something about it just felt very like I'm not ready yet, and maybe that's a future thing,
Right.
or like that's just not, it just wasn't hitting for me, and I hated that it wasn't, because I thought it was such a good idea. But and I like wrote out sort of a business plan for it and everything, and I was like, I just threw it all out. That just feels heavy, and it
Yeah.
feels unclear, and it feels exhausting, and I don't want more work just because I want to be bigger. Like, I want to choose the path the path of least resistance.
Right. Right.
Because otherwise, like, I'm just literally, like we were saying in a previous conversation, just treading water. I'm like, yeah, this is great, I'm moving, but that doesn't mean I'm getting anywhere. Like, it's
Exactly.
just, I'm just getting tired. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah. And then what you said to me when, I don't even remember when, but like, then your energy's so scattered too, right? Like, if you're diffusing your energy everywhere, then of course you're going to tread water, right? But if you're focused on like, okay, I'm in the middle of the lake and I have to get to that edge right there, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to focus all my energy on like moving that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like, as opposed to like, oh, well, I could do that, I could go over there, I could go over there, I could swim on my back, I can try them all. You're not going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're not ready to swim, if you're not rested enough, if you haven't like
Right.
gathered all the support that you need for that journey, again, you're just gonna take a lot longer and be a lot more exhausting.
Right. Exactly.
So even just knowing like when to just stand on the edge of that and like wait till you're ready.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. So funny. One of the last things my dad said to me, and it took me a couple of years to figure out what he meant. He was like on his deathbed. We had just taken the tube out, and we were saying goodbye, and he was trying so hard to communicate to us, and I did my thing, like trying to like help him, right? Like, are you saying this? Are you saying that? What, like this, that, like just, trying to like do all the work. And he can, and he was like, shut up. And, but it was so like, there was so much more behind the shut up. Like that was filled with so much. And for a couple of years, I like struggled with like, oh my God, like that's one of like my last memories with him. And like, did I upset him? And then one day I was sitting at his grave, and I was just like, because I used to like just sit and go visit him and just sit with him. And I was like feeling confused that day, or something was going on. And I just kept like talking to him and saying stuff and asking questions. And I heard him go, just shut up. And like, I was like, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, he was telling me to stop, to just stop, like stop working so hard, stop trying so hard, stop, like just stop, just shut up, and then you'll be okay. Like the answers will come, you'll understand. And I'm like, and so yesterday or 2 days ago, I heard him again, Jennifer, shut up, just stop. And I was like, oh, so like,
oh wow.
Yeah. So it's, everything is such a huge opportunity for learning and growth if you let it be. And it doesn't make it any less uncomfortable. It doesn't make it any less disappointing and defeating at certain moments. And, the past few days have been super, super eye-opening, and just like, wow, like, let me take a step back and see what I've been doing, and just like, holy cow, like, I had no idea.
What's
And if you're,
what's the fear of, like, what are you, why haven't you like shut up or like stopped? Like, are you afraid of not?
I think the fear is like, look, I'm the sole provider of my family, right? My son. Um, and I also have an ex who is highly aggressive and actively stalking me and constantly taking me to court. So all the money that I have saved, right? Um, you know, there's constant checks being written to attorneys and things, and it's scary, you know, and I work really hard on staying out of that fear and really being in like, God's got, you know, I'm good. God's got me, universe got me, I got me, like I will make what I need to make. And I guess what I keep telling myself, I just have to be all in. I just have to do the work. I just have to show up, and then I'll, I'll put in the effort, and then I'll receive. But it hasn't been happening. But yeah, the fear is, yeah, like if I don't, right? Like, again, I'm the sole provider. It's not just, and if it were just me, it's like, I could, couch surf. I wouldn't care. Right. Like, but it's not just me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just like, I hear like effort and work and show up, and it's like, and then I receive.
Right.
And it's like, what if there was a different story around like receiving, and it didn't involve effort? Like, for instance, I'm again picturing like the metaphor of the house being like you and being taken care of, and like, what if you didn't have to do anything for somebody to deliver what you needed to your door?
Right.
You just, and just sort of set things up to where, and I know this is like metaphorical, but that idea of like, I can sit and be 100% just like in whatever I need to be in. And in that like intense focus, the money, I'll be able to identify where like the most potent use of my energy is, so that I can grab hold of the money that I need. Mm-hmm. It's like, there's like so much money in the entire, like there's so much money, but right. Like the thrashing and like the holding on to so many things is like preventing you from like dipping your hands in slowly and grabbing that big juicy pile of money for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like you're spending so much time grabbing the $1 bills. It reminds me of like, the Price is Right, where they're blowing around $1 bills, and like, yeah, you're making money, but like, but I always used to think like, why don't people just bend down
and
grab all of it? They don't have to do anything, but they can sit down and have more money.
I love that. Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what I've been really focused on, this, like just sitting and being and knowing that, and being in such deep trust that like when I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be working. I'm like, nope, this is my work, right? This is my work, and everything is going to be okay. This is part of the journey. And this is what's taking me to where I need to be. Like just reminding myself of that. And like, my work right now is to be silent. Mm-hmm. And to know, like, and you said, only doing the things that you feel deeply pulled to do. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because I'm not sure I remember the last time I felt deeply moved or deeply pulled. right? And so that was like, oh, okay, well, there you go. Like you have to be really quiet and listen for the pull.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I mean, sometimes it's huge, but then even still sitting with it,
Mm-hmm.
because if it is real, then you're going to feel that same pull in a month.
Totally. Yeah. I know I keep bringing her up, but the most recent time I felt a pull, and I actually have had a recent pull again that I mentioned to you, but I'm going to let it ferment a little bit till I like tell you about it. But most recently, working like under Yana, my coach,
Mm-hmm.
and that being like an opportunity, like she is incredible to me. I've always felt lifted up and inspired, you know, being coached by her and just following her. But to work side by side with her was like such an honor to. So my immediate reaction in my head was like, yeah. But like also, that's going to take a shit ton of responsibility.
Mm.
Like more than just being in like the passenger seat where I'm like benefiting from this. I'm actually going to be part of the energy that she's putting out. I'm going to be like an extension of her, and so to speak. And I thought if I don't say yes right away, I'm going to miss out.
Mm-hmm.
But also like I don't want to say yes and not be a full hell yes. And so I did sit on it for a couple days, and I figured out like one, I was definitely being pulled towards that because I felt like that felt right. And two, I was ready to rise up to the occasion, because there's two things, you know, like one, it could be like ooh, that's nice, but two, are you ready?
Right.
And like sometimes you're just not ready, and I was fully willing to say no out of like I'm not there yet. But deep down I knew that I was. And so, you know, taking those two things into account whenever you're like sitting on a decision, and an intuitive nudge is like, one, like, does this align? Do I feel right? Yes. Two, are you ready? And if
Right.
you're not, it's okay to wait. And like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So interesting. It's so funny too, because like even coaching clients around dating, right? And it's like pacing, waiting for the feedback. You don't need to rush, right? If you're rushing and you feel like you're doing and constantly like putting in effort at the beginning, right, there's something off. So like, you know, I'm always, you know, when clients are like so excited and like, and I'm like, remember, you're a queen in court, just hold space and pace yourself. And just because if you feel it will be, right? It will still be go, right? But it's like, give yourself the weight. And so it's like, you know, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And it's so true.
I love how much you live in your integrity, and you like, you know, we're human, like we have all these obstacles, but then like taking all into account everything that we say to our clients and the messages that we're putting out, and it's like, I need to listen to myself here now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's huge. Otherwise, what are you? Just
Right.
a coach who's like giving out advice, who is living a very imbalanced, exhausted, not in total resonance life. But then
Yeah.
that is
And
a hard, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, and our clients grow us if we don't keep growing, right?
Totally.
Like if we want to keep attracting the up level, we have to up level.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah.
So.
This is like a big up leveling for you then. I mean, I know it doesn't feel like it.
No, I think so. I think it really is. And then even like, you know, and it's so funny too, because we'll hear ourselves say stuff. Like I have been saying probably for as long as I know you, I'm not resonating. Like I knew it, right? I knew it. Every single person I spoke to, I'm not resonating. But I still kept going. Like, and now I look back and I laugh because I'm like, what? Like, in what planet does I'm not resonating mean, okay, do more?
Yeah.
And like keep putting in more effort toward the thing that's not resonating. Like, and now it's like, duh. But I knew it. I've been saying it forever. And so now that I've stopped and I'm listening, it's very clear to me why I'm not resonating. Very clear. And so I've been, again, I'm not acting. So I'm just putting everything in my notes, writing down all the messages that are coming through. But I'm like, if I would have just stopped 6 months ago and I knew very clearly I'm not resonating, there's something wrong here, you know, would have avoided all of this, but I needed it. So
Totally.
for the lesson.
Yeah. Totally.
But it's funny how like, even though I knew it, I still barreled through.
So how does it feel? Do you feel like the silence is resonating with you and like the pause is you do feel that?
Oh yeah. And that's why I am not making any movement decisions unless they're small and unless they provide opportunities for me to think more for at least a week. So like if it requires me to say yes or no to something, then it's tabled. But if it's an action I can take that will give me more possibilities or more opportunities to consider, then it's a yes. And that's the only actions I'm taking this week, other than supporting my clients, obviously, and doing my work. So yeah, it's resonating. I've even brought it in. I do yoga at least, usually like twice a week. And it's interesting to really bring it into the yoga practice too. And like see how many times I move on the mat when it's more of like okay, move from up here versus waiting until it's an okay move from like my root chakra, like my intuitive place, and like just watching it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I move so much from anxiety or like just that like need to keep in motion. And so it's been really interesting on the mat, just how long just waiting and then going, oh, okay, now it's time to move. Like it's really interesting.
You're totally reconnecting. Not even reconnecting, like more deeply connecting to your truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because my intention that I wrote at the beginning of July is, and it's right next to me at all times, the next 6 months, I am dedicated, committing to create my most beautiful and true existence. And so that's what I have committed to. So every night, you know, my work in the morning, at night, like help me know the steps to my most beautiful and true existence. And that's what's happening, right? And of course, there's going to be a lot of ugly, painful stuff, right? Like if that's really what my ask is, there's going to be that has to fall away, and a lot that I'm going to have to like learn and grow into and risk and all those things. So, you know, it's like a big kind of intention or ask or whatever to put out there. So that's, I guess, kind of what's been going on the last 2 months. You know, it's like I am receiving, I am manifesting that. It's just not all flowers and sunshine.
Yeah. I mean, you put that out there and it's like, okay, well then you're going to have to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
And you're like,
You're
but
gonna
wait, I don't have any control. I want to be in the way. Like, but you set the intention, so you're going to have to get out of your way.
and shut up.
And shut up. Yeah.
And if you don't shut up on your own, I will find a way to shut you up. Which
You're like,
it worked. Got it.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah. It's just, I'm looking at my little note that I have, my little, we're so alike. It's hilarious. And I've had this for, I think about a month and a half. There's like two, I wrote one intention and there's like one underneath and it says, I choose to only align with people who are impeccable with their word. And then under it says, I am willing to let go of what or who isn't in full alignment with me. And so, I think a lot of that was geared like outward, like, okay, what isn't in alignment, and like feeling into that and like having that pause and saying like, I'm only going to align with like people and things and decisions that like are in alignment. And when I said like impeccable with their word, I mean like have that integrity that we talk about and are like that I don't have to question.
Right.
And who are clear and reliable and compassionate, like all those really like beautiful values. And if not, let go. And I think like there's been a detoxing of sorts along with the me waiting and the letting go. But then what happens is like I'm left with me, the final thing, the final closet, like the hallway closet that just like needs to finally be cleared out in my house is me. And
right.
It's like, wait, what do I need to let go of that inside of me that isn't in full? Like what thoughts and ideas and patterns and like the messages that I'm telling myself and like the like habits that I just, moving from scarcity, or even like, how am I not being impeccable with my word?
Yeah.
Am I saying that I want X, Y, and Z, but I'm not actually like fully meaning it, or I'm not fully ready to receive it? Like there's just so many different layers to that. And I feel like it ties into what you're saying too. It's like we put these like intentions out there and these messages out there, and like as they have time to just like permeate deeper and deeper, it's like the excavation is like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna find.
Totally.
But I'm gonna keep digging.
Yeah, because it doesn't look the way we think. I think we put these intentions out there and it's beautiful, right? Because you see the beauty on the other side. It's a beautiful vision being, right? And that's what inspired to put the intent out there. And I think it's like childbirth. Somehow we get tricked into forgetting that the journey there is actually pretty painful. And it's a lot of kicking and excavating and tears and all of that to get there.
Yeah.
And it's like, and when you're in it, you're like, oh, you like forget. It's like, why is this all happening? Like, oh yeah, right? Like this is what I have intended. Like,
yeah, like I'm ready for the mess, like is what we've said.
Yeah.
And then when it comes, we're like, oh, wait, I didn't want this.
Yeah. I just want to be over there. Can't we just like figure out how to fly me there?
Yeah.
Time travel.
Yeah, I had a sort of interesting experience this week. I feel like in tandem with like what you've been experiencing, the timing is like crazy similar. But the asking for that like clarity and transparency, and like I got that this week. And it was extremely triggering. Even though I've been asking for it, it was like, wait, that's not how I wanted that to sound. Right. I think that you need to redo that. I don't think that I want the actual truth. I'm like, I want truth and like total like clarity around these things. And it's like, when it actually hit, I was like, oh no, like what do I do with this? Like this doesn't feel like, this isn't like the expectation that I had. And then along with that comes like, but how beautiful it is, even though it looks nothing like you thought it would, because it's exactly what you've been praying for and asking for. Like, this is that like triggering moment was like the answered prayer, so to speak. And there's so much love in that, because it's like, wow, I can, asking for, you know, that impeccability and that alignment is one thing, but like what happens when it actually shows up at your door?
Right.
Like you know, once you know, like that's what that is, are you ready to welcome it in? Are you ready to receive that? And the answer is yes. And even though it's like so unfamiliar and so scary, it's like, yeah, we're ready.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for that, for this, you know?
Yeah. Whew. Deep, deep, deep.
Yeah.
Deep chats.
deep chats. We're gonna have to add a couple other deeps in front for this one.
No. Now I'm so like curious. I'm gonna start researching to see if anyone's done any work around transferring, like people who have been in like narcissistic or any sort of like sociopathic sort of relationship, like transferring it into other, getting out of the relationship but transferring the dynamics.
Yeah,
because I can't be the only one.
No way. No, I mean, a lot of what you're saying like resonates with me. Like, it may not be where I'm at right in this moment, but I think like, you know, first it was with my mom, and then it was with my ex-husband, and then I found out it was with my certain friends that I had, and then soon it became my business, because that was like this thing that I thought like wasn't, it was like so separate from me that I didn't feel like I had any say, like control. It was just like, I'm just going to have to work so that my business approves, and then I get to receive at the end of the day. But my business was like this thing that I put above me and like needed me, like that needs to be needed, right? That codependent, like need to be needed. Like, oh, my business needs me. It's like, but I am my business. Like, you are your business. It's not outside of you. You literally like, it extends as far as your skin. Like every move you make, you are exactly your business. And so understanding, I think for me was like, it's not that the business is like, you said this before to me, I'm trying to fit some like a square peg in a round hole or something. I feel like that. But like, again, that's putting it outside of you. Like, you don't have to try to fit like the business isn't the peg.
Right.
It's you. And so what do you need right now? And like in that, your business is succeeding. If you're giving yourself exactly what you need, that's like nourishing and like good and feels, you know, in flow and like good for you, then like that's success in business. And understanding that, I think, makes things just, I don't know, for me, it made things a lot easier to understand. Like, I'm literally like, every breath I take, my business breathes that breath.
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah.
it's
And again, same as relation, right? Your relationship is better the more you're giving yourself and breathing life into what you need, like everything you said, right? Exactly. So how it's like, yeah. Yeah. It's a complete reframe.
Yeah.
And like not reprogramming, unprogramming myself from being in that sort of dynamic, like being in those dynamics, right? It's the same for me. Started with my mom, right? And then being married for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
So,
choice should always be you.
right.
Like, what is best for me? Like, that's where the choice always should be.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just choosing like, I have to do this, no, you don't.
Right.
But
Right.
you can choose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a beautiful, beautiful lesson. And
Yeah, absolutely.
And the people that you serve now, even if it's not yet and I say not yet because I feel like this is like the seed, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's just gonna like get so much bigger for you. But like, the people that you'll be serving now are going to like just it's just going to explode from here. But like, the more time you take in this like dormant seed phase, like the more that seed's going to really, really be strong and good for whoever it is that you touch going forward. Like, this is you running your business, is you pausing and not doing.
Yeah.
This is you like research and development phase.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, this jumped all over the place.
I know. This is what we call deep
Yeah.
chats.
Deep. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone listening, you just got a bird's eye view into what it's like to be on the phone with me and Leah.
Yeah. This was like totally unplanned, but like real life stuff, and
Yeah. Yep.
it's just like, along with what it means to like be in conversation about this stuff, I think the biggest takeaway is like knowing when to like be out of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not in my wheelhouse. That's not
Right.
in my best interest. That doesn't feel totally right for me. I'm not resonating with that. Like, you're saying you're not resonating, but also like things that you're doing don't resonate fully with you.
Exactly.
You're like, it's reflecting just straight back at you. And so it's like taking the time to be like, I don't line up with this. That's not in alignment for me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Well, this was good. And yeah, I guess I think we referenced quite a few books during this, so I'll go through and make sure to link those in, or quite a few like quotes and stuff. But take time, like,
Yeah. Listen for the feedback. Wait for the response. Wait for the knowing.
yeah, and permission to just like not fast forward into the future.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
my big thing too, is like, I'm just like, what if you didn't have to do any of it? And
Right.
like, everything that you did do, you just got to choose. Like,
Right.
and there's no pressure, like permission to just like literally just be a total easy world, like permission to be in that. And you can choose what you want, but you don't have to. You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Like, that feels really good. So anyway, thanks Deep Chatters for listening.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Bye.
To all you Deep Chatters out there, Leah and I want to thank you so much for listening. This is a podcast that's all about connection, so we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Instagram at Deep Chats Podcast. And if you haven't already, please go to iTunes to rate and review us. Every review helps other Deep Chatters just like you be able to find this podcast.